Okay, let's dive into this first story. We're going to jump into this discussion with Don Lemon and Elon Musk. But before we do that, there is something new that has also been announced in reference to why Don Lemon may have been fired from X after he signed this contract here. Actually, New York Post called this out. Don Lemon wanted free ride on Elon Musk rocket to host the first podcast in space. As part of a wild list of demands. I can't make this up, man. I can't do this. So it says Don Lemon, who submitted a wish list that included demands of a free Cybertruck in contract talks with X before he was unceremoniously dumped last week, also wanted SpaceX boss Elon Musk to launch him into orbit for the first ever extraterrestrial podcast. Oh my God. This is ridiculous. First podcast in space to be hosted by Don via SpaceX, the bulleted item read. The literally out of this world ask was on a document Lemon's agents at the United Talent Agency sent to Musk's social media site that also included demands for a $5 million advance on top of an $8 million base salary. Now, remember, he already received $5 million. I believe it was $5 million from CNN, right? As a part of like his settlement after he was fired from CNN, they sent him a severance package of like $5 million. So he already had that. Then he wanted $5 million advance with X on top of an $8 million base salary. Equity in the company and veto power over the site's news content policies and its roster of creators. So he also wanted some type of power here in reference to the content policies. Now, that's going to be important when we get into this interview, because that is one of the discussions that does come up during this segment. So let's go ahead and dive into the first part here. This is about the tweets and the drug use. I'm telling you, this interview was uncomfortable to watch. It was one of those moments where I was just like, awkward. Let's get into this.
Listen, I'm not asking you anything that anyone else hasn't asked you about your controversial stuff that you tweet. You post a lot of controversial stuff. Is that considered blowing off steam?
Well, I guess I do enjoy using the platform. I mean, I do call the X platform the PvP, or player versus player platform. So in video games, there's player versus like environment, where you're not playing against other people, and then there's PvP, which is like hardcore. You're actually playing against other people, and
but that's blowing off steam for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is to some degree, not always. I mean, obviously I use it for to post jokes, to post sometimes trivia, sometimes things that are of great importance.
So you do a lot of it at night, like late at night. So when you're doing this, are you sober when you do it?
Almost always.
Are you under the influence of anything?
No, I don't drink. I don't really. No.
So you.
I just didn't understand why that mattered. Don Lemon has been called out for his drunken tirades as well. Some on air, some off air. So I don't understand why that was important. It was just really weird to bring up that subject.
No drink, no smoke, no nothing. I mean, you smoke pot with Rogan.
I had one puff.
Yeah.
I think anyone who smokes pot can tell I don't know how to smoke pot.
But you've admitted that you have a ketamine prescription.
Yeah.
What's that for?
Well, I mean, it's pretty private to ask somebody about a medical prescription, But I think it's something I'd say, like, there are times when I have sort of, I don't know, like a negative chemical state in my brain, like depression, I guess, is or like depression that's not linked to any negative news, and then ketamine is helpful for getting one out of a negative frame of mind.
Well, listen,
So in fact, I generally, obviously I'm not a doctor, but I would say if someone has depression issues, they should consider talking to their doctor about ketamine instead of SSRIs.
listen, I think that ketamine and drug therapy is increasingly becoming more in the mainstream.
Yeah.
Do you think you're doing it under a doctor's care, right?
Yeah. Literally a prescription from a real doctor, not like,
Yeah. But do you feel like you ever abuse it?
I don't think so. If you use too much ketamine, you can't really get work done. So I have a lot of work. So I'm typically putting in 16-hour days. That's normal for me. And it's rare for me to even take off a weekend day. So I don't really have a situation where I can be not mentally acute for an extended period of time. Like I can't really get wasted because I can't get my work done.
If I was Elon Musk, I wouldn't have even answered that question. Like, that was just ridiculous. Like, to me, it's just again, I don't, I felt like this interview that Don Lemon did was more so kind to be a gotcha moment against Elon Musk. And I have many criticisms of Elon Musk, but I didn't feel like this interview was done in a good faith way. I felt like it was just to let me try to see how much I can get out of him and make him look bad, right?
So how often do you take it?
Well, it'd be it's a small amount once every other week or something like that.
But there's not on the bottle where it says take this dose this many times a week or whatever. If it's not doctors.
Now that's going too far. And see, this is where, if I was Elon, I probably would have stopped it right there. This goes on for so much longer, but I probably would have stopped it right there. That's going way too far. It is none of your business what that prescription says. It's none of your business how many times it says that you're supposed to take or he's supposed to take that medication. That is none of Don Lemon's business. That is going too far.
The dose. There are several weeks will go by where I don't use it.
You don't use it.
Yeah, I think like I said, I think what I find ketamine is if you're literally a chemical state in your brain that you can't just think yourself out of, then ketamine is helpful for getting you out of a depressive mind state. You
suffer from depression, or you have a depressive mind state? And I asked you as someone who has suffered from depression.
I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say that I have a case of extended depression. It's just once in a while I get into a negative sort of chemical mind state. Once in a while, it's not a common thing, but once in a while it does happen.
Where do you?
That's none of his business. I don't understand why Elon even went this far. It's none of Don Lemon's business, whether or not someone has to deal with depression or whatever, or what kind of state of mind they get. That is really none of his business. It's important that you see this part, what happened earlier on, so you understand why I believe Elon responded the way that he did later on.
I think that comes from?
I think it's just genetic, basically.
You think it's just genetic history?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, some people are just wired to be happy all the time. Some are unfortunately wired to be sad a lot of the time. And in my case, I'm generally pretty positive and optimistic. But once in a while, I don't know what happens. There's some, like I said, I think it's just chemical tides in your brain. Once in a while, it's like a brain storm.
Yeah. Do you ever worry that this may get in the way of your government contracts and clearances, and also and Wall Street as well?
Well, from a standpoint of Wall Street, what matters is execution. Are you building value for investors? Tesla is worth about as much as the rest of the car industry combined, from nothing. So that's pretty good.
Okay. Now, I want to go to another segment there. Again, I don't feel that should have been part of the interview. Honestly, if I was Elon Musk, I would have told him that, look, you're wasting my time. I got things to do. We're going to get to this section here about the great replacement theory. This is where it starts to get a little bit more heated. So let's go ahead and jump in here.
Can we talk about the great replacement theory now? Some of the things that you post, the great replacement theory, you claim that Democrats President Biden's immigration plan to open up the border. You said that the president is getting, and Democrats are doing it to get more votes. But undocumented immigrants cannot vote in federal elections. So how is that possible?
Right. Well, you're conflating two things. One is great replacement theory. The other is, which I don't subscribe to that. I'm simply saying that there is an incentive here. If legal immigrants, which I think have a very strong bias to, at least everything I've read, it's a very strong bias to vote Democrat. The more that come into the country, the more they're likely to vote in that direction. But it is, in my view, a simple incentive to increase voters, Democrat voters. And yeah, so the question is like how? So there's a few ways that this works. One is that when the census is done, the census is based on all people in an area, whether they are citizens or not. So if there are a concentration of people who came here illegally in a particular state or in a particular state, that state will actually then get an increased number of House seats. So the House seat apportionment is proportionate to the number of people, not the number of citizens. So the illegals overwhelmingly go to places like California and New York, and if you just look at the math, if you look at the apportionment with and without illegals, I believe California would lose. I believe the blue state, there would be a net loss of blue states of approximately 20 seats in the House.
Let me pause here for a second, because this is a piece here where I feel like Elon, he got this somewhat wrong. For example, people that are coming through, that are crossing the border, they're not going to like New York. They're going to places like Texas and Arizona. And actually, I just interviewed JT Chapman earlier this afternoon. It's recorded. You'll see it premiere tomorrow. I just interviewed him earlier this afternoon, and he lives in Texas, and he's a socialist. And he told me about some of the things that he saw when he was at the border. So just keep that in mind. It's not just coming from Republicans, right? So they're going to states like Texas and Arizona. Like when they cross over the border, they end up in states like New York and Massachusetts, because governors like Ron DeSantis and Governor Abbott, they have been sending them to those states. So that piece right there is important for Elon to mention. He doesn't mention that. The way he explains it is like they're coming into New York, and they're not coming to those states. They're being sent there.
This also applies to the Electoral College. So you say, like, well, this also applies to electing the president, because the electoral votes are also done by apportionment the same way that House seats are done.
But the reason, Elon, the Electoral College is in place is to balance that, is so that doesn't happen. So what you're saying about it is the exact opposite of the reason why the Electoral College is there. Let
me go a little bit deeper with the Electoral College. The original reason why the Electoral College was created was to give the slave states more power. That's the real reason. Now, we phrase that differently today, right? Like we say, well, the states that have, smaller population, have more rural areas, they have less people. We want those states to have a say as well, not just the states where they're most populous, right? Like obviously, so people say if we didn't have Electoral College and we just went by the popular vote, then that means that we would always have a Democrat president, because California, Massachusetts, New York, they have the cities that are the most populous, right? So that's what typically would happen. But the real reason that the Electoral College was created in the first place was to give the slave states more power.
Electoral College at this point in our history gives people who are in smaller states and red states much more of an influence over our elections than people who are in blue states, and the majority of the people in this country. That's what the Electoral College does. It actually does the exact opposite of what you're saying. It protects people who are in smaller states and protects people who are in red states.
Well,
the red states, because they tend to be smaller and less populous.
I think that statement is what you said is true, but what I said is also true, which is that if if, as is the case, a disproportionate number of legal immigrants go to blue states, they amplify the effect of a blue state vote. And the math, as I understand it, you can research this obviously very easily on the it's pretty straightforward to research this. But my understanding is that there would be that the Democrats would lose approximately 20 seats in the House if illegals were not counted in the census, and that's also 20 less electoral votes for president.
Yeah, this is a good point, Teddy G. Census is on a 10-year schedule. I think it's 10 to 15 or something like that. That's a really good point. That is something I think, again, that Elon doesn't really understand.
So the illegals absolutely do affect the who controls the House and who controls the presidency. It does not affect the Senate.
Yeah. In blue states, you're talking about. I
Yes.
don't believe that your information on that is right. So listen, let's talk more about the Great Replacement, because the first time that you posted on X about this Jewish conspiracy, you ended up apologizing.
I didn't call it a conspiracy. I just said that there's a simple matter of incentives. You don't need a conspiracy when you have basic incentives. In my view, there's a basic incentive that is fundamental that for the Democrat Party to foster and usher in a large number of illegals. Yeah. And you don't need a conspiracy in that case because you have a very basic incentive. You could say I'm wrong about that incentive, but that's my view. I'm not buying into some great replacement theory. I'm simply saying there appears to be a very clear incentive for Democrats to maximize the number of illegals because it helps them win elections.
I'm talking about.
Here's the problem. They're talking about this from a partisan perspective, when the reality, it's not even so much about a partisan perspective. It's about the oligarchs. It's about the billionaires. It's about the CEOs. It's about the ownership class. And see, this is the thing that bothers me when we talk about like money. We talk about money, we talk about labor. At the end of the day, it's not really about what the Republicans want and what the Democrats want. It's about what the ownership class wants, what the donor class wants, what the oligarchs want. They're the ones that really make these types of decisions. So we can point fingers in different directions. We can say, oh, Biden has open borders. We can say, oh, God, Trump has a wall. But we can also say that Biden continued to build onto that wall. We can say all these things and point fingers. But at the end of the day, the people really making the decisions in reference to where the money is going to go and the labor force in this country are the people at the tippity top.
About the Great Replacement theory is also part of a Jewish conspiracy theory. And when you did the tweet, or you responded to the tweet about that, you ended up apologizing, and which I think is, it's good that you ended up apologizing. You went to Auschwitz with Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
Right? So you said you learned your lesson. What did you learn?
I said I learned my lesson.
You said you learned your lesson when you apologized, and you said you went to Auschwitz. You saw what.
No, I was already aware of these things, and the nature of my comment that really inflamed people. What I was trying to say, and I did very quickly clarify. This is what I'm saying: is that a number of prominent Jewish philanthropists fund groups that they should really take a closer look at funding, because some of the groups they fund, I think, are anti-Semitic.
Yeah. Do you understand the connection between the two? There's a connection between, you said Democrats, the Great Replacement theory, but when it comes to the actual Great Replacement theory, originally it was started about Jewish people, as you said, flooding in the country, and then now people are using it for Democrats, saying the same thing about Democrats, flooding.
In my view, it's a simple matter of incentives.
Yeah.
I actually don't see an incentive for Jewish people to want to get legal immigration. I don't think there is such an incentive.
Yeah. The Great Replacement theory is a neo-Nazi trope. It's in the neo-Nazi manifesto. It's in the Turner Diaries. It's referenced by the Buffalo mass shooter in his manifesto, where 10 people, black people, were murdered in Buffalo. There's the actual title of the Christchurch shooters manifesto. 51 people in the Muslim mosque were murdered. 23 people murdered in El Paso by a shooter who used the same language that you use in that manifesto when you say Hispanic invasion. Is that not?
I didn't say an Hispanic invasion.
And you quoted a tweet that called it a Hispanic invasion?
If I quote something, it doesn't mean I agree with everything in it. It's just something that I think this is something worth people should consider.
Why would you quote something that you didn't believe?
Because anything I quote is going to have a whole range of statements. It doesn't mean I agree with everything in it.
Do you think if you moderated yourself more, if there was better content moderation on the platform, that you wouldn't have to answer these questions from reporters about the great replacement theory as a real?
Let me pause for a second. You know what I noticed when I was watching this interview? Is it just me, or does it look like Don Lemon aged after he got fired from CNN? Like, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's the lighting. Maybe it's the camera angle, but I was like, wait a minute. Don Lemon looked like he aged, like, in this interview. It was just kind of, I don't know. But what was also interesting is that Don Lemon basically had receipts he's been watching and paying attention to what Elon Musk has been tweeting, and not just tweeting, but retweeting. That's the weird part. Like, a lot of times people don't pay attention to retweets, right? But he's been paying attention to that. So he's been watching you, Elon.
I don't have to answer this question.
Great replacement theory as it relates to Jewish people. Do you think that?
I don't have to answer questions from reporters. Don, the only reason I'm doing this interview is because you're on the X platform and you asked for it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I would not do this interview.
So you don't think? Do you think that you wouldn't get in trouble, or you wouldn't be criticized for these things?
I'm criticized constantly. I could care less.
You don't care?
No, I don't.
Why not?
I don't think people should care what the media thinks about them. They're terrible judges of character.
So this is him telling Don Lemon that he didn't really want to do this interview. See, now that you heard about the New York Post article, the other things that Don Lemon was asking for, the $8 million, a $5 million advance. He wants to be the first person to report from space or something, do a space podcast through Elon, things that he was requesting. I don't think it was just this interview. I think it was all those requests or demands that he made on top of this interview. So that could also be part of the problem part of the reason why Elon Musk said he didn't want to do this interview. Oh, man.
Even someone who has one of the biggest social media and biggest information platforms in the world, you don't care? You don't think that you have any X.com or you have any responsibility to the truth or moderating the platform?
You're conflating the truth with the media, and I think the media is not truthful.
Well, not with just the media. I mean, just the truth in general.
I care about the truth very much. That's why we have, for example, community notes on the X system, where in order for a community note to surface and provide corrective information about what somebody posts, and my posts are equally subject to this. I've been community noted many times. In order for a community note to surface, people who have historically disagreed must agree in order for a community note to surface. And all of the code for community notes is open source. All of the data is open source, so you can completely recreate it from scratch. The way to build trust is transparency.
I have noticed community notes. I think that you are right about that, and I do think community notes are helpful. I think any type of content moderation, I do think that's helpful. You recently called content moderation, though, a digital chastity belt. Do you think that you believe that X and you have some responsibility to moderate hate speech on the platform?
I think we have a responsibility to adhere to the law, and we have a responsibility to be transparent about when things are shown, why they're shown. So that's why we open source our algorithm. I think once you start going beyond the law, now you're putting your thumb on the scale. And we don't want to put our thumb on the scale.
It doesn't concern you that hate speech has gone. Research shows that it's gone up on the platform since you took over. That's not concerning to you?
I believe that is false. In fact, the research that I've seen says it went down.
The study from the Institute of Strategic Dialogue found that anti-Semitic tweets doubled from June 22 to February 2023. One study reported that as many as 86% of the posts reported for hateful content remained up after being reported. Hate speech on the platform is up.
Let me pause here for a second. Why do I get the impression that Zionists actually put Don Lemon up to this interview? Because I noticed the number of times that he's mentioned anti-Semitism. There are all different types of hate speech, right? But look at what he's choosing to focus on.
So what they will typically do is they will count the number of posts, but not count the number of views. So what matters is, was that post given high visibility, or what did like one person see it? And if you look at the number of views of how many times was hate content viewed on our platform, it is down substantially.
Yeah. Well, that's not what the study shows. And you said you like transparency. I'm going to show you this, and
Don, you can get a study that will tell you whatever you want.
But these are just a handful of extremely. You look at those anti-Semitic and racist tropes and tweets. And
we're going to scoot past that part. There we go.
To radicalizing.
So Don, you love censorship, is what you're saying?
No, I don't love censorship.
Then why are you asking?
I believe in moderation, but I don't believe in
censorship. Moderation is a propaganda word for censorship.
But don't you think free speech is one thing, right? Or not,
Look, if something's illegal, we're going to take it down. If it's not illegal, then we're putting our thumb on the scale and we're being censors.
You're putting your thumb on the scale for moderating hate speech. I mean, you don't put out child pornography. That's not...
It's illegal.
Some people would say that's considered censorship. I'm just saying, you...
No, I literally... Don, I literally said, if something is illegal, okay, we will obviously remove it.
Okay.
But if it is not legal, the laws in this country are put forward by the citizens. We're a democracy. If those laws are put in place by the people, we adhere to those laws.
Okay, I agree.
To the laws of others. If you go beyond the law, you're actually going beyond the will of the people.
Okay, agreed with the law. But if you are doing something that promotes hate and violence and ultimately leads to killing, you don't feel you have any responsibility not to do that? When the people who are doing it admittedly are saying...
There's articles all the time that lead to violence and killing. Don't they? Shouldn't they? Like, you're applying a differential standard to...
But that would never be in mainstream media. These types of images, that type of language, those things would never be. We'd never, when I was in mainstream media, we'd never promote things that would be anti-Semitic.
So again, notice how many times he's mentioning the word anti-Semitic. That's why I wonder if Zionists put him up to this interview. Let me explain something here for just a second in reference to moderating content and whether or not content can cause like some type of harm. This is the same criticism that I remember Congress members had about video games. I remember when I was growing up, when Mortal Kombat was first released, there were a number of representatives that had problems with video games like Mortal Kombat. They said that it would encourage kids to do this same type of behavior. There was a TV show at one point called Power Rangers, where there was some concern that kids were watching that show because people said kids were trying to do the stunts that Power Rangers did in real life. Where you have to be careful is that people can choose to act out whatever they want. People can choose to act out things that are positive, and people can choose to act out things that are negative. People can choose to act out things that are nonviolent, and people can choose to act out things that are violent. At the end of the day, you know what is right and what is wrong. Now, when it comes to children, that is when the parents are supposed to hold the children accountable and make sure that the children are not doing those things that are wrong or incorrect. I remember Congress members had the same criticism towards different types of music. They came after Eminem. They came after 2 Live Crew. They came after Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre. Like, I know this is taking you back for some people, but I remember all of this. So this whole idea that if you allow something to exist on the platform, then you're encouraging people to then commit some type of, violent act or whatever. No, that's actually up to the individual. We just have to be careful with how far that can go, right?
We would never promote things that would
either.
Did you not see those?
You said promote. If content is on the platform, that doesn't mean we promote it.
But that wouldn't be on a platform for mainstream media at all. No,
but you can think of that. That's because the mainstream media has like, 20 articles a day. We have 500 million posts a day.
Okay, understood.
500 million.
Does it bother you? How do you feel about that when you see it?
I obviously disagree with that. I think it's not good at all. It's terrible.
But you don't want to get rid of it on the platform, or at least moderate it.
The rules, what you're suggesting is censorship that goes beyond the law. And what I'm saying is that we, I guess, have a disagreement, because I do not believe in censorship that goes beyond the law, and you do. We have a difference of opinion in that regard.
I understand that, but these are your own rules on your own platform. These go against the rules on your platform. That's why I'm asking you. If you said, listen, we allow everything, but that's not what your content rules say. And that's why I'm asking you, why are they still there? Your own content policy. That's why I'm asking you that, not because...
Which part of our content policy says that we should delete these things?
Your content policy talks about hate speech.
Yes, we don't promote hate speech.
And so you don't consider that hate speech?
I guess you're not understanding what I'm saying. There's if there's you can find, like, you can sign up right now and do 100 things that are hateful. But if nobody reads it, it doesn't matter.
Let me tell you what he's saying there. This is a revealing moment, right? If nobody reads it, it doesn't matter. Meaning, if that tweet is not getting any traction, it doesn't matter because people aren't seeing it. That's what he's letting you know. It's an issue when people are seeing it. When more people start to see the tweet, then it's... So if you have a tweet where only 2 people saw it versus a tweet where 50,000 people saw it, obviously the tweet where 50,000 people saw it, that tweet is going to be called into question if people were to, right? But that also brings up the point about suppression, which I've said before. People are still suppressed on Twitter. Palestinian voices are still suppressed on Twitter. Leftists are suppressed on Twitter. You'll look around and you'll see it's almost like Elon Musk took it in the other direction, whereas before a lot of the voices under Jack, when he was managing Twitter, a lot of the voices that were suppressed were still leftists. Still progressives were suppressed. But of course, the establishment blue Democrats were not. So like a Biden supporter or Hillary supporter, not suppressed. But the right-wing accounts, the Trump supporter accounts were suppressed. But it seems like Elon took it in the other direction. Whereas now the Trump supporters, they're elevated on Twitter. RFK supporters are elevated on Twitter. Whereas now, once again, still the leftist voices are still suppressed on Twitter unless you already had a larger following. But that is just something I've noticed. Like now I can go through my Twitter feed and I see all these like right-wing accounts that I don't even follow these people. I'm seeing people that I don't follow on my Twitter feed instead of seeing the people that I follow. So a lot of things have changed in reference to that and how the algorithm works on Twitter. But that's him letting you know that there is suppression and also that some of these accounts are shadow banned, which I've been saying for quite some time. Now, in reference to the hate speech, which he's referring to, I have noticed, and people have complained about this as well, it depends on who the hate speech is directed towards, because there's been a number of times where actually people said some things about, said something recently to JB. I think JB's in the chat. Use the N-word with the ER at the end towards JB. That account has been retweeting that same tweet to other Black content creators on Twitter the past 2 weeks. And that account has not been flagged from what I can tell. And they're still like doing this tweet everywhere. However, it seems like now people have shown actual screenshots where if they criticize Israel too heavily, all of a sudden, boom, instant suppression and community note. But a Zionist account can say some pretty racist, nasty things about Palestinians, calling them animals and dogs. I've seen it all. They can say those things, and that account does not have a community note. The tweet is not removed. So there is no consistency when it comes to who is going to be flagged. That is one thing I will say.
So you can think of X as being, it's much like the internet. It's not some tiny publication with like 20 articles a day. It's 500 million.
But everyone has the opportunity to read it, Elon.
I think everyone has the opportunity to read the internet. Are you suggesting we should shut down the internet?
No, but you don't own the internet. I'm asking you about you and your responsibility and your platform. And so I see how you feel now. You don't agree. We don't agree on this.
Yes, you want censorship and I don't.
No, I don't want censorship at all.
Yes, you do.
No, I want responsibility. I think
You desperately want censorship.
No, if I want a censorship.
You want censorship so bad you can taste it.
No, that's not true. It's not true. I think that there's right and wrong. And I think that when you have a platform that's as big as yours and as powerful as yours and as influential as yours, and you are a person of consequence to the world with what you do, that there is a certain responsibility that goes along with what you have on your platform and what you put out to the world. And I think that's important. You don't see that responsibility.
People can say the same thing about Don Lemon, though. I would argue, Don Lemon, when you were on CNN, you had a responsibility with the large platform that you had to tell the truth. And there were a number of times where you did not tell the truth. You told lies over and over again, but you got that paycheck, though. You continue to get paid. So what's the difference? I think you're really not the one to make that call. This interview is really something else. As I said before, if you have not had the chance to watch the whole thing and you can stomach it, go watch the entire interview. We actually have a poll question in reference to that interview, whether or not you think that that should have taken place. So let me know how you feel about that, because I do feel like, for whatever reason, it seems like to me that Don Lemon did this interview as some sort of gotcha moment. I feel like he could have been doing it at the command of other organizations or groups. You never know. It was really weird to me. Really weird. So I don't know. When I was watching it, I was just like, awkward. You know, that's just kind of how I felt. Let's take a look at that poll. All right. So you guys did submit your results for the poll. Do you agree with Don's decision to interview Elon Musk? This is interesting. 41% of you said yes. 27% said no. And 32% of you said, I'm not sure. That is an interesting poll. Interesting results. Well,